All right. Welcome, everybody, to the first Friday Entrepreneurship Call with K-State Research and Extension. Our goal on this call is to engage the knowledge, wisdom, and relationships of the local community with the research and experimentation of the universities to create a vital local communities. And the purpose of these calls is to increase the local community's knowledge about the experts, the education, and the economic resources available to help small businesses and entrepreneurs. We are recording this call for future review, and that is there in the chat box. I will send it out to my email list as well so that you can find it very easily. Today's speaker is Brian Dennis, the Small Business Development Center advisor, who is here to break down the complexity of cybersecurity. And we have the luxury of time this morning. Brian's presentation won't take nearly all the time I've scheduled on your calendars. And so I hope that you will be thinking of your questions and anything that you want to share with us as well. Because besides Brian, and there are 20 people on this call who have things that they might want to share with the rest of this K-State and KU and Kansas community, that we can help small businesses and local communities to be vital. So Brian, take it away, and we're all yours.
Sure. So thanks, Nancy, for getting this set up, and to everyone on the line today. I appreciate you guys participating. Before I get started, I like to run a very open sessions when I do these types of learning opportunities. And so if anybody has a question, please feel free to shoot a chat over to Nancy, and Nancy will let me know if somebody has something. If you want me to go back to a specific slide, just whatever you need. I'm here for that. And so as Nancy said, my name is Brian Dennis, and I'm the director of the Cybersecurity Center for Small Business. We are located here at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, but we do serve the entire state. And so what we're going to go through today are a couple of things. We're going to talk about the ugly truth of planning. Specifically, a lot of cybersecurity is missing within America's small businesses, and we're really trying to make that change. Really going into why you need a plan that works, whether that be cyber or disaster business continuity related as well. And so what we're doing, and then where you can turn to for planning assistance. And that's what we're hoping the Kansas Small Business Development Center can provide. And so a little bit about my background specifically. I come from as far south Louisiana as you can get, which I'm sure you probably can't tell by my accent, but I grew up in South Louisiana surrounded by hurricanes. And so that gave me a unique perspective on what really constitutes a business interruption. When we talk about business interruptions these days, it's easy to think about the physical side of business interruptions, whether that be flooding and or hurricanes in the south, fire. There's multiple issues that deal with physical business interruptions. But one of the things that we're really focused on these days is the truth that cybersecurity is becoming a major business interruption across the country. And it's not happening just in corporate America. It isn't happening on Wall Street, just on Wall Street. We estimated 2 years ago, the last time they really researched this concept, they said that 43% of all cyber attacks were being levied against small business. We expect that to top 50% this year if it already hasn't, and pushing closer to 60% in the next couple of years. And that is an opportunity for cybercrime because small businesses are the ones who just aren't preparing right now. What we see are small businesses are a target. 60% of companies that are going to be breached will shut their doors in 6 months. And so that number is something that we just can't continue with. We have really got to start focusing on what we can do to bring that down. The average attack has actually grown. The average cost of a breach is about $117,000 per small business. And so that's another area that we're really focused on trying to bring that down. And a lot of people will wonder, well, what does, 117,000, how could I even get to 117,000 in a cyber breach? And there's multiple expenses that people just don't really think about these days that can come via a cyber breach, not only in the form of actual direct money you'll have to pay out to potentially replace credit cards, pay for credit monitoring for clients, but additionally with lost revenue because of just complete brand damage. When you suffer a cyber breach as a small business, the word gets out and it will damage your business, it will damage your brand, and it will damage your marketing as you go forward. And so we really want our businesses to start thinking about what they can do and specifically how they're doing today. And so that's the challenges that we're really trying to face right now, is that there's just this lack of awareness within our small business community. When we look at businesses across the country, it's an astoundingly high number as far as what businesses are actually doing to prepare for the threat of cybersecurity. It's easy to think about cybersecurity in the terms of, we can pick up a newspaper, read online news anywhere, and see that there are nation states actively working to hack into the American infrastructure. But the reality is that cyber crime is really a criminal syndicate, and there are multiple opportunities for, yes, organized crime units across the world who are looking at cybercrime as a really unique way of making money, but also just single individuals who are taking an opportunity to exploit small businesses' lack of planning. And so that lack of awareness of the threat is really what's been one of the pushes for this to grow as a crime. We have a lot of increased scrutiny and liability that's happening to small businesses these days. Specifically, when we start talking about businesses that are doing work with the government. On December 31st of 2017, the National Institute of Standards and Technology started really making NIST 800-171 a component that businesses need to think about. What that is, it's basically, if you're doing any business with the Department of Defense, you've got to make sure that your business falls within a cybersecurity framework as created by NIST. And this isn't a regulation as much as it is a framework, a guideline that they want businesses to be a part of. The problem is that right now there's no teeth to it. But down the road, there most likely will be. And so we'll start seeing a lot of scrutiny coming down from the government. But also, as we move forward into a more virtual world, we're going to start seeing increased scrutiny from our banking partners, increased scrutiny from our insurance companies. Right now, there's multiple opportunities to buy cybersecurity protection from your local insurance agency. You can go in and have a policy written, and that policy might cover up to $150,000 to $200,000 in damage that could happen within a cyber breach. But we don't really know what that looks like yet. And so we have a feeling that in the future, insurance agencies aren't necessarily just going to start writing plans unless that our businesses can show that they've prepared in some way. Business-wide education, not just technical, but behavioral, is an issue. When we start looking at what's happening in small business these days, 80% of the breaches that are occurring because somebody clicked on an email, somebody went to a website they weren't supposed to, somebody actually physically allowed a cyber attack to happen. And so there's a lot of behavioral changes that we need to make. Business email attacks are something that are really, really just kind of taking off and getting a lot of opportunities. And the business email attacks that we're seeing these days are specifically launched towards the top of a company. They're no longer really trying to go after some of the lower level employees who might offer an opportunity to just get into a system. What they're hoping for is to attack from that top level and going specifically after cash really quick. Business email exchange is happening where a CEO might get an email one day from their CFO saying it's time to transfer $25,000 to this account. Here's the bank account number. Here's the routing number. Please make sure you get this done. Thanks a lot, Brian. And they type this email out, and it looks legit. And the CEO goes ahead and sends that email. And before you know it, that money is gone. And it's one of those things where it's easy to think, I don't think I could ever fall victim to that. But this year we've seen $60 million of that across the country, and it's just growing. The cost and implementation is a major concern for businesses these days, specifically small businesses. So when we look at what's being spent on cybersecurity in America and across the globe, right now it's about $80 billion a year that's being spent. The majority of those dollars almost all of those dollars are coming from corporate America. You know, the Fortune 500, they're spending 1% of total revenues on cybersecurity these days, and that number is just in the billions and billions and billions of dollars. And so they understand the threat, but small businesses just haven't yet started putting that on their P&Ls, and they haven't really started focusing on what can be done to potentially maybe offset a little bit of that cost with some just system-wide education. Recovery is a challenge for our businesses these days. The threat of an attack looms large, but no one really thinks about what to do afterwards. And specifically, who do you contact? How do you make sure that once you've been breached, that breach doesn't push out further and you can contain it? And additionally, there's just this lack of a support network. When we started looking at the opportunities to start educating our small business owners on the threat of cybersecurity, we realized that there are multiple opportunities out there to learn, but there's really not necessary. There's not a network doesn't exist that says we can help and we can actually assist in making some changes. And so when we begin looking at this as an opportunity, you know, we understand that there's not a perfect plan. There is no simple template that we can put together online and say, here's your cybersecurity plan, you know, fill in the blanks and you are protected. Every business is different. Every business is carrying different data, different information, and we need to make sure that our business owners are thinking thoroughly through this concept. And what this ends up bringing up is the topic of business continuity and or disaster recovery. And so these are terms that are really tossed around a lot in much larger companies, but we're really wanting small businesses across the country to think about it. And so cybersecurity is kind of that open door for this. And so what we're doing is we're letting folks know that an issue exists currently within the small business community about a lack of planning on the cyber side. But in our opinion, a huge lack of planning exists on basically any type of business interruption. And so we're hoping that when folks come in and start thinking about what are they particularly missing when it comes to cybersecurity, it's going to open up new questions to what am I potentially missing just across the board. We can start conversations about key man insurance. We can start conversations about, are you carrying enough insurance and is your policy right for you? So when we start thinking about what we want to do, you know, we really want to raise awareness that cyber risk is out there. It's not just happening in the government and in corporate America. You know, the majority of attacks these days are levied against small businesses. You know, a lot of people remember the Target hack that happened several years ago. When Target was breached, that was an international story, and cost the Target Corporation a ton of money. But the way they were breached, a lot of folks just aren't necessarily that familiar with. It was a small business that allowed the Target breach to happen. There was an air conditioning repairman, an HVAC repairman outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who went one day into a Target store to work on their air conditioner. To run a diagnostic, he plugged in his laptop into their AC system, which was also tethered to their mainframe within the store, and the next thing you knew, hackers who had been in his system had now taken over the Target system, and they pulled. By the time they were done, they did about $163 million in damage to the corporation. 2 years later, Target ended up shutting down all 300 stores in Canada. And when you start thinking about could it have been related, absolutely. A lack of funding to help the company go forward probably killed that huge opportunity that existed in another nation for them. Target has recovered and they are doing well, but they've done that because they have the money to do so. Small businesses just can't afford that type of loss these days. What else we want to do is really help businesses manage these threats and start understanding specifically what they can do right now to make a change. When we talk to our business owners across the state, we are really focused on, yes, this is going to cost money at some point. You will need to spend a couple of dollars to make sure that your business can stay safe online. But right now, there are simple physical changes that you can make to your business and your computer systems that will keep you safer. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is foster innovation. Cybersecurity, right now, there are estimated to be about 2 million open jobs in cybersecurity across the country. We probably will see about 1 million of those jobs filled by automation. And so that still leaves 1 million open jobs. And right now, we're probably going to graduate about 36,000 students in cybersecurity this year. And so we're nowhere near being able to fill those positions. And so when we start really pushing cybersecurity as an opportunity, we're hoping that that will foster an innovation in Kansas to really help us grow. And Kansas Small Business Development Center has been really proactive in innovation. Next week, we'll actually have our Encountering Innovations Tech Commercialization Summit in Johnson County Community College. And so what we're seeing is these opportunities that are coming in, not just for military applications, but for just new potentially ag-related applications. There's a slew of opportunities that are growing, and we're excited to see. So elements of our program include industry-specific training. So what we really want people to focus on is that you might right now be required to keep a safe cyberspace, specifically if you're in anything in like the medical field. If you have to do anything with HIPAA, we want to make sure that you're understanding this is something you need to focus on. If you're accepting credit cards, credit card data is extremely valuable to people who want that information. And we want to make sure that we're keeping it safe. And then obviously financial sector. Financial technology is growing. There are multiple opportunities now to make money online within finance, but we need to make sure that those businesses are safe. Another element is our advisor development. As we, as a small business development centers across really the country start growing and really focused on cybersecurity as an opportunity, we have really got to start educating ourselves. The 2017 National Defense Authorization Act actually put a little bit of language in there saying that America's Small Business Development Centers would start assisting our businesses to say, let's help with the cyber problem. But we have over 1,000 business advisors across the country, and not all of us are ready to do that. So we really need to start educating our advisors within our systems as well. Again, fostering innovation is a huge element of what we want to do. We want people to realize that there are opportunities in cybersecurity, not just in San Francisco and Boston, Austin, and Chicago. There are multiple opportunities to really build a business that's focused on cybersecurity all over. And so the way we're doing that is assessments. We want people to come into our system and to actually assess themselves and figure out how they're doing today. The assessment that we've built is actually based on the cybersecurity framework put forward by NIST in 2015. And so that cybersecurity framework really focuses on 5 key areas. And we want to bring in a business. The assessment that we created takes about 30 minutes to get through. You can find our assessment at our website, kansasSBDC.net. If you click on the cyber link, there's a big button right there to take the assessment. And it will give you a concept of how your business is currently doing. And another resource that we're offering is business continuity planning. And so we have a couple of advisors in the state who actually offer business continuity services. And so we launched in the fall of 2017 last year. It's based off the NIST framework, and this serves as a foundation for our training and counseling. And it's what we really want this to be is a functional tool. We do not want to use scare tactics to force people to become cyber prepared. That's honestly what we've been doing for the last couple of years, and it just isn't working. Our small business owners are barraged daily with news about issues that exist within the cyber realm, and they just don't know where to turn. And so that lack of awareness of where to turn really kind of turns them into that deer in the headlights concept, and we really want that to stop. And so the areas that we're pushing within our training and our assessment are focused on those 5 key elements of the NIST cybersecurity framework. And the first step that we begin with is identifying, understanding specifically what are you holding within your business right now that potentially could be a problem? What devices do you have that need protection? And those devices can include everything from obviously servers and laptops and desktops to tablets and mobile phones. People forget that cell phones, they have to be protected just as well. There's a lot of information that happens throughout businesses these days on mobile devices. Understanding what operating systems you're using, figuring out exactly where do you store your data. A lot of businesses right now, when I ask them where are you storing your data, they usually have one option. Sometimes it's in the cloud, sometimes it's in a physical backup. We want to make sure that is that enough? Is that going to be enough for you to recover your business should something like a ransomware attack happen? Ransomware is one of those key cybercrime tools that we're seeing kind of rolling out all over the world right now. In 2016, there was a major ransomware attack in Europe called WannaCry. Fortunately, it didn't make its way across the Atlantic to here. But we do see ransomware popping up, and it's becoming a huge issue, not just in Kansas, but really all over the globe. And it's an easy way for an attack to happen with very little repercussions on the back end for the attacker. It's hard to track them down. The law enforcement resources to really go after ransomware attackers is limited at best, and so we're seeing it as an opportunity, and it's really growing. And so when you're if you've been attacked, knowing exactly where your data is kept and how your data is kept can keep you from ever having to pay a ransom. You will always know where to back up and how to rebuild. The second step, the second area that we really focus on is that of protection. Really focused on firewalls. Are you encrypting anything? Usernames, passwords, understanding that passwords need to be changed. And we just really need to work on our passwords altogether. Obviously, everybody can probably say this with me at your desk. The #1 password in America is still what? You got it, password. That has to stop. We have got to get better about creating passwords that are unique and identifiable only by us. The problem is that we are a society riddled with passwords. I actually sat down and made a count of everything that I need a password for on a daily basis. I'm at 32. That's 32 separate passwords that I need to remember. And so that's a hard issue to protect. There's obviously password managers out there that can do that, and there's multiple opportunities for new concepts out, that are bypassing the password system. Biometrics is a great example. So a lot of phones now and computers will use your thumb as a fingerprint to get into your system. And I always have that one person that argues with me, well, what if the criminal cuts off your thumb? If that happens, I've got way bigger problems. And so I will just let that go. But we have to start thinking about this. What are we doing to protect ourselves, and are we doing enough? A lot of the times, protection is just as simple as clicking update. A lot of breaches occur because people don't update their virus protection. When your virus protection comes due, and it's time to re-up that $250 for your business virus protection, a lot of people will just let that lapse and will do it whenever it comes time. Or when that little bubble pops up and you turn your computer every morning and it says updates required, a lot of people will just X out of that because, again, I just started my computer, I don't need to restart it. Well, those updates are built in to help us protect our systems. The reason those updates are coming in is they have found a vulnerability that needs to be addressed immediately. And so, just simple steps that we can take to update or to protect ourselves are great. One of the key things that I've heard a couple of times, and it just blows me away, is that some business owners don't even have virus protection on their systems. And when I ask them why, they say, well, if somebody wants to get in, they're going to get in either way. And that just, I just can't buy that these days. We've got too many opportunities out there for viruses to just show up in your system and potentially to take it over, and you might not even have a clue. And so we really want people to start looking at that. Third area is detection. How can you actually tell if something is inside your computer that's kind of rolling around in there and wreaking potentially havoc inside your system and or waiting for you to connect to another system? Methods of detection, right now we're limited to, what most of us are limited to is our virus protection. If our virus protection notes that we have some type of infection, we will work on it right then. One of the problems with that, though, is that there's multiple opportunities for people to get into systems that we just aren't aware of. And so there are signs that we can start paying attention to that might give us an inkling that something's going on. And so what are those signs? Potentially, the slowing down of systems. If you see a port that's opened on your firewall that you've never noticed before, how can you figure this out? The detection of a breach, it usually takes 6 months from the day of the breach to actually realize that something has occurred. And that is 6 months too long. I mean, what needs to happen is when a breach occurs, we need to prepare, we need to start reacting to it immediately. And when we don't know for the first 6 months that a breach has occurred because we just aren't seeing those warning signs kind of going off, it's going to cause a problem, and we'll start seeing that 60% of businesses shutting down and that $117,000 average cost going up. And so we really want to focus on what we can do to detect. 10 plus years ago now, the FBI director at the time made a statement that there are two types of businesses in this country: those that have been breached and those that will be breached. 2 years ago, the FBI took that statement and rewrote it. And their statement on that now says there are two types of businesses in this country: those that have been breached and those that don't know they've been breached. And so there are breaches happening every day that we're just not aware of, that potentially are small in nature to us. But should we partner with a larger organization or ever send out emails, we may be putting ourselves and our partners in danger. Our fourth step is response. You know, the response time on a cyber breach is extremely important. We've got to start seeing what's going right in some small businesses, what's going wrong, how, you know, when breaches occur, what is actually being done on that small business level, and how can we replicate the good and avoid the bad. You know, understanding that our data backups need to be addressed within a very quick time window. Finding somebody who can potentially help with some digital forensics to find out exactly how bad a breach has been, and then actually containing that event. You know, sometimes within a very small business, containing the event might be as simple as just unplugging the machine from the network entirely and making sure that nothing can spread further. But a lot of folks just don't know that, and they will leave a machine that's been breached by ransomware tied into a server, and the next thing you know, the entire server's corrupted, and then sending out additional emails. And we really have got to focus on what we can do to respond, and respond in a timely manner. And then recovery. This is one of the areas that is really in small business not thought of at all. You know, we will potentially think about a plan about what we can do should a breach occur. And, you know, we can use this on a physical side as well. You know, we think about what can we do, what will we do if a fire happens? What are we going to do if a tornado comes through? You know, we put phone numbers together. We'll have a concept of how we reach employees. But what do you start doing to really rebuild your business? What are you going to do to ensure that your business can stand up and pass that 6-month window right now to be here next year? Recovery is a process. Recovery takes time. As somebody who went through Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana, I can tell you that recovery is never easy. It's going to be the most stressful time during this stage. And rebuilding your brand in a cybersecurity event is the hardest thing to do. You've got to regain your customer loyalty, your customer faith. And at the same time, you've got to retrain everyone within your organization to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And so, you know, this recovery process is it's a massive undertaking. And so what we're really hoping to do is with the assessments and understanding where you are on that, we can begin building training specifically geared towards these 5 segments of the cybersecurity framework. And so within our assessment, if you decide to go and take the assessment, at the end of it, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for free training from our office. And that training offers what we call snack size learning opportunities, no longer from 9 to 23 minutes in length, that really kind of take dives into specific areas. And so when we start thinking about this, the small businesses out there, we understand that a business owner doesn't have, first off, we have 28 million business owners across the country, and cybersecurity is something that they all need to start learning about. We cannot send 28 million business owners back to school. Nobody has that time or money. And so we have to start finding opportunities for them to learn in very easy ways. And so that's what our training will do. It's going to give businesses tips that they can make today to make solid physical changes within their systems, and understand what they need to do to start thinking about putting a plan together. Our businesses just need that assistance right now. So when we do start building this cadre of cybersecurity experts all over, they'll know how to best spend those dollars that they're putting into their P&Ls, and where they can actually turn to for assistance. And so here's some cybersecurity tips that we've been working with and we really push for. Obviously, protect against viruses, spyware, and other malicious code. And Nancy, I believe you're going to send out this PowerPoint to everyone, right? So they'll get this. I'm not going to read everything on the screen. Obviously, securing networks. That's one of those key things. Wi-Fi networks in particular, and understanding the security of networks that you might be utilizing. Wi-Fi networks are especially public Wi-Fi networks, are a dangerous thing, you know. And so if you're using your work computer and you might be traveling, understand that potentially you might be giving away data if you log onto a public Wi-Fi network that has been spoofed, as we call it. This happens a lot in public spaces like airports, and hotels are actually a pretty big target for that as well. Establishing security practices and policies. You know, a lot of people, a lot of business owners don't have a policy and procedure when it comes to their cyber security footprint. And so we really want businesses to start looking at that, what they can do, and we're going to help putting, you know, with a policy and procedure, giving people an idea of what that should look like. You know, we've got to start educating our employees about threats. You know, we need to make sure that our employees are showing just as good cyber behavior as we are. And we need to require employees to use strong passwords. Again, that #1 password out there, password is got to go away. We just need to make that stop, but it just keeps popping up. Employ best practices on payment cards, obviously a very important area. Making backups is huge. Controlling physical access to computers is a big issue these days. You know, when we think about cybersecurity, we think cybersecurity is really, you know, somebody hacking us in a basement somewhere. But unfortunately, a lot of cyber breaches occur when somebody gets access to a system within their own office that they shouldn't have access to. And so we want to make sure that when you walk away from your computer, you know, it's actually being locked down, and the only way that somebody can get into your system is through a password that you've created and a password that you're not sharing with someone. Mobile device action plans are more important than ever. Every time I go somewhere and end up flying, you know, there's always somebody who leaves a cell phone or a tablet in the back pocket of the plane, of the seat, you know, somewhere on that plane. And so making sure that you have a mobile device action plan, because there's so much data that people are keeping on their phones these days. And then finally, protecting all pages on your public-facing website. Public-facing websites are easily breached. A lot of businesses that are using them are using companies that don't necessarily utilize the best security practices to make sure that their systems can't be breached. And so putting together an action plan on how to, you know, ensure that your public-facing website is up to date with the latest security pieces, and as well has not been taken over by somebody. We've actually seen public-facing websites through companies that did all of their business entirely online taken over by criminals who just simply rerouted the direction that money went. So you might have a public-facing website, and let's say you're selling jewelry online, and you know, somebody buys a bracelet, and for $500 they plug in their credit card number, and that money just disappears to an entirely different area. And so those public-facing websites are a big issue right now. There are tons of resources out there, you know, and so the Federal Trade Commission has been great. They have put together some really interesting stuff. Payment card PCI security is a big issue. There's the SANS Institute. If you want to go into really in-depth training, I would suggest do our training first before you do anything with SANS, because SANS does get really technical. The National Cybersecurity Alliance is fantastic, and the SBA offers amazing opportunities to learn not just about the cyber issue, but about disaster recovery as a whole. So I think I've gone about 25 minutes, and so I've gone a little bit longer than I was expecting to. But does anyone have any questions? And if you don't want to ask one right now, please feel free to email me and/or call sometime.
Fantastic, Brian. That was a great overview, and I love what I heard, that there's an assessment online, and then after that you're eligible for bites.
Yes, and so that assessment is the starting point. You know, we understand that not everybody's going to access our free training, but that free training is there, and we want people to use it.
Great. Okay. I'm going to unmute all of our lines so that you can ask questions. You're all unmuted. That may be a bad idea, but we'll try it.
Brian, this is John Forshey. I'm the director in the River Valley Extension District here in Clay Center.
Hi, John.
Good information this morning, kind of overwhelming, and, you know, the same thing, just keeping track of passwords and everything just keeps us all overwhelmed, I think. But we do a lot of, you know, newsletters and that sort of thing. Do you have any material readily available that we could drop into our newsletters just to remind our small businesses and direct them towards these resources?
I do, John. And if you would shoot me an email, I'll send you everything I've got.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question.
And Nancy, that might be just something good to, if you would want to do that for us and just shoot out to all agents. There's, you know, it's more than just me, so let's get it out on our system.
This is Lisa Roberts. I work with Brian at the Kansas Small Business Development Center, and we produce a lot of this content already, John. So we would be happy to share that out to anybody, because I think, like Brian made the point in his presentation, that we need to spread the word as widely and broadly as possible. You don't have to recreate the wheel. We would be happy to share everything that we have with you, just to make it easy for the people that you connect with to understand the importance of cybersecurity.
That would be great. But like I said, yeah, to route that through Nancy, you know, so that you're not dealing with, you know, 100 different individual agents, you know, to kind of route that through, and she can forward it to her email list, I think would be good. How's that for giving you another job, Nancy?
That's a great job to give me, John. Way to use your resources.
And thank you, Lisa.
You bet.
Ron Wilson has joined me in my office, and I think he says he has a question.
Brian, thanks for a fascinating presentation. I have a friend in law enforcement who says crooks are lazy, and they look for easy pickings. And he said in a neighborhood, one of the significant deterrents to crime is a house with a little blue sign or whatever in front that says it's protected by a security system. The critic goes on down the street to the house that doesn't have one of those. So I don't know how that applies in the cyber world, but I wonder if there's you know, maybe there's a business opportunity, or maybe the SBDC could have a way of posting this website, this business is protected in cyber sense. And
yeah, that is something that's definitely being explored, not just in Kansas, but really all over the country right now, with creating some type of standard to say that this small business is cyber safe, like putting a cling in your window that says, you know, it's really almost akin to anyone who's ever worked with restaurants, that, you know, they've got Safe Serve, which is basically just training employees on how to properly, you know, not mix chicken and lettuce, you know, raw chicken and lettuce together. And so we're talking about very simple, you know, at its heart, at its core, basic principles, but it's those basic principles that will, you know, make people, that will deter you from coming in. And so having a little button that somebody can put on their you know, front-facing website that says, we have been through a cybersecurity training, and we are safer than your average business. So, you know, go elsewhere. And you are right. Criminals are lazy, and cybercrime, it is a lazy man opportunity. And so, you know, it's such an easy, it really is easy pickings these days. And so we'd love to see something going out.
Great question, great answer. I've muted you all again, so if you take control of your own destiny and unmute yourself if you have a question.
I need to go update my password.
Yeah, go up. Yeah. Okay. So also, we want the opportunity. We want this this opportunity to turn into a chance to share among each other about things that are going on for you. So if there's something you'd like to share with 21 other people, 22 other people in the state of Kansas, this is your opportunity now.
Nancy, you know I've got something to share
Yes,
today.
I do.
Back in July, I think it was, you had John Schallert on the First Friday call.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who don't know about John Schallert, he is a destination business expert. We've sent an awful lot of folks from Kansas out to Longmont, Colorado to participate in his 2.5-day seminar, Destination Business Boot Camp. I know there's some people on here who have attended. Normally that fee plus all the travel time and expenses is about $1,395, I think, and I don't know that that's updated or not, but that's close. We are bringing John to Marion on November 14th and 15th to deliver a new rules of business success workshop. It's going to be a 2-day workshop. November the 14th will be 8:30 to 4:30, and then the 15th will be 8:30 to 3 o'clock. For that, Marion County businesses or residents are going to pay $50 plus a ticket surcharge, and others outside of Marion County can attend for $125 plus a ticket surcharge. Registration is up now at Eventbrite, so you can. I would encourage you to get your local businesses excited about potentially coming to Marion for those 2 days. I'd read you the website at Eventbrite, but it's long and tedious, and it's also very case specific. So I've asked Nancy to help me distribute that information to you. Be happy to answer any questions. Thanks for the opportunity, Nancy.
Yeah, you bet. And David says, please send the Network Kansas the Cyber News e-letter too. So we can do that.
Perhaps everyone's aware the Kansas, the Governor's Conference on the Future of Water in Kansas is November 13th and 14th. It'll be in Manhattan. Website is KWO, as in kansaswateroffice.ks.gov.
Very good. Ron, what was that website again?
KWO.ks.gov, kansaswateroffice.ks.gov.
Okay. Kansas Water Conference coming up. Any other sharing? Well, that's excellent. I want to thank Imogene and the Network Kansas crew for having the idea to put the rural partners in with the First Friday call. I was telling Brian before we started that our attendance used to be 40% K-State research, or excuse me, used to be 60% K-State research and extension people. Last month it was 70% non-K, or just 28% from K-State Research and Extension. And it feels to me like I haven't done the analysis yet, but I think the rural partners are really appreciating this information from for everybody. So one more chance to think of something you want to share. And otherwise, look this afternoon for the opportunity to watch this again online. I will tell you, a couple of months ago, when John Schallert was on, we had a glitch and his piece did not get recorded. And so that has now been recorded and his piece is up online. So you can go there to see or share John Schallert's presentation if you can't get to Marion, Kansas.
He's much better live.
Aren't we all? Yes. So next month on the first Friday, I think it's November 5th maybe, is Holly Schletzbaum with the Kansas Global Trade Services. November what? 2. November 2nd. Thank you, Ron. Holly Schletzbaum is going to be talking about Kansas Global Trade Services and worldwide marketing. Kansas Global Trade dedicated to building international growth and commerce for Kansas companies. Since 1994, Kansas Global's education, communication, and research services have helped members generate more than $165 million in international sales, plus projected sales of over $13 billion. So look forward to that on November 2nd at 9:30. And if you have a topic that you would like to know about, please let me know. And Lisa is asking about the posting for the recording. It is on our website, and I will put that out this afternoon to everybody who received this notice, so that you can find it. I'm going to leave you with a thought for the day. I love and I collect quotes, so you are going to be my my bite-sized quote recipients. Today's quote is from Ewing Marion Kaufman, and he says, "All of the money in the world cannot solve problems unless we work together. And if we work together, there is no problem in the world that can stop us as we seek to develop people to their highest potential." Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that really interesting topic. And I hope, like you do, that we get beyond feeling paralyzed and take these snack-sized portions of improving our cybersecurity.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. See you November 2nd.